Hey everybody, LSV for Life here. Of course, coming to you live from the Backstage Pass, week 3 of Twitch and Box Sports Talk. Got my man Slush over here knocking down the production of this episode. And this week we got special guest Shanon the Sledge Hammer Cannon weigh in on some Raiders stuff for us this week. Quick shout out to a new follower on X, Becky, who's a Steelers fan. So hopefully we can get some other followers on X and YouTube. Should be an interesting podcast tonight. Where do you want to start off at, Big Willie?
Let's roll. Every week 2's in the books. Don't take any week for granted, because before you know it's going to be week 17. We're like, dang, team's not playing anymore if you're Twitch because the Steelers aren't making the playoffs. But we're going to start out here a little out of order from normal, but we're going to recap the Monday Night Football games because they're fresh in our heads and both had really good. One was a good game. The other game was an interesting game in general. Call it I heard somebody call it the retirement bowl between the head coaches. 2 of the oldest head coaches in the league out there playing. But let's roll right into the Chargers-Steelers. Chargers get the win there. Justin Herbert looked really great. I mean, he looked good. He was slinging the ball around.
Chargers-Raiders.
Yeah, Chargers-Raiders. My bad. Who did I say?
No, Steelers.
Steelers.
He's
I was just talking shit on the Steelers.
Yeah,
you're looking right.
Yeah, okay.
But the Raiders... Raiders.
He just wants to have that leverage on me.
Yeah.
Get that leverage
that one
as a Broncos fan. Get it?
Yeah. Sorry, that's going to be... talk about that later. Wasn't very happy about
That's
that.
the old sluice. Your team sucks, man.
Geno Smith's first pass was an interception. It was not really his fault. In my opinion, it was crazy play in general. Mm-hmm. Genty never really seemed to get the ball moving down the field. They couldn't establish a run game, which Geno Smith has always been better with a run game at least. But... it's a good division win for the Chargers in general, but the Raiders, I feel like the Raiders can still they can be good still, but it's going to take a little bit of work. Yeah. And, I mean, Max Crosby getting double teamed all night did not help his case at all.
Sure. Well, and the Chargers, big win for the Chargers for sure. But he said, I know we're only 2 weeks into the season, but in years past, these are the kind of games where the Chargers have kind of let slide. They get a big win, and then they do Charger-type things. They lose to teams that they are favored to win. I do think you and I have agreed that the Raiders are going to be a lot more competitive than what a lot of people think. But if you're the Chargers, again, there's still obviously one game left to go with the Chiefs, so it's kind of a wash because they'll play again. But you're 2 weeks into the season, and now you already have a head-to-head tiebreaker against the Raiders and a head-to-head tiebreaker with the Chiefs. You're 2 games into the season, and you're already 3 games up. So a big win for the Chargers. They didn't look as smooth on offense, but they made enough plays. Whereas you talked about with the Raiders, with you, I have Genty on my fantasy team. I'm a big believer in him. But they just kind of like you said, if there's a formula to him, the old fashion formula with Geno Smith. So if you give him enough of a supporting cast and give him a solid run game, but it's like I think he ended the game with 3 picks yesterday. I think that was just more of trying to force things late for the Raiders. So it's some things that could be worked out. And I think that this Chargers defense, just getting the amount of pressure they got on the Raiders yesterday, like Chargers defense, even with the Chiefs too. I don't know if that's the 2 teams they played, but for what we've seen so far out of the Chargers, they'd be able to have. That's just it. Their defense being better and be able to get pressure consistently and bring them back Khalil Mack, and then Herbert playing at a different level we hadn't really seen consistently to start off the year. So big win for the Chargers. Raiders, I thought they did some nice things. But ultimately there was just too many pieces, and yeah.
Special guest Shanon here.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate you guys letting me come on and join this podcast with you guys. I'm really excited about it. And, let's dive into my Raiders. And kind of just piggybacking off of what you guys have been saying about some of the, the good things and the things that we need to work on is, we need to establish a run game with Ash and Genty with the first pick of our round this year, just like we established a first pick out of Brock Bowers last year. Mm-hmm. And now that we've diverted away from Brock Bowers in the first 2 games, it's just one of those things where we need to get him going too. But in order to do that, we have to establish a run game just for Geno Smith to have some comfortability with him throwing the ball. Some misdirection, some play action, just keep their defense on the toes that they're playing against. And so with the defense that the Chargers have, and to the respect of the Chargers, I mean, mean, they have a hell of a defense. Let's just put it out there. For the last since last year, they've been the top 10 defensive, team in the league, and that's not slowing down. They're only, their stock is rising. So, with that being said, this is a big mountain to climb for the Raiders, being with the new coaching staff, Chip Kelly coming in as offensive coordinator, Geno Smith coming in trying to. I'd say that first pass was a forced pass, and the play call probably wasn't the best. But as he said in his post-game interview, was just, I'm trying to establish something. I'm trying to get things going. You can put it all on my shoulders, but at the same time, you got to look at the whole team, and the team has to do their job. And the defense, they did hold down what they needed to hold down. They could have got out of hand if we really looked at it. It really could have gotten out of hand. But for the offensive, script of this series of this last game, I'd say that there's some work that needs to be done, some things that need to be on the same page with my guys. Jacoby Myers is great. I'm glad he didn't get traded like he requested. I'm happy that he's here, and he said that himself, that he is going to be here doing his job, regardless. So he's a respectable, player in the game. There's a lot of good things, but at the same time, I just want them to. We want to see a lot more early on, because we've seen a lot less with a lot of games in our past, and we want to be able to compete. So,
I think piggybacking off of that, just kind of, we'll talk about that later too. Obviously, with the other team in the AFC West, like with the Chiefs, but it's like, I think for the Raiders, so much to be expected, even with the experience still being in a new system, new team with Geno and Pete Carroll. I said, we're looking for an offense identity. And so, how do you incorporate this? Like you said, one of the few bright spots last year was Bryce Bowers. They've got two really good tight ends. I said, and I am a believer in the running back. Jacoby's a really good wide receiver. So it's like they just need to get an offensive identity. But holding the Chargers to 20 points, that's. And like I said, the Chargers have a pretty good offense. I said, I know he hasn't really busted out yet, but having Najee Harris and having the 1-2 running back combo they have, and Keenan Allen looks like, before he was went to Chicago, he looks like turned back the clock with Keenan Allen. So, just a lot to take for both teams. I said, but for the Raiders, I think it's finding an offensive identity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like Genty. You can see Genty making plays. Like, there was a play in the second quarter. They threw a little butt, like it was a check down pass, and he hit the spin move on Derwin James, who was the top 5 safety in the league, top 5 at least run game safety in the league. Like, he's slammed Travis Kelce 2 years ago or last year on the goal line. Like, he's a really good player, and Genty put him in the spin cycle, but he's put him in the spin cycle 5 yards in the backfield, which it was it's a good heads up play by him. But Shanon, before you hop out of here, I want to get your opinion on Amari Cooper retiring after being a Raider again for 7 days. That's a piece that really could have added some veteran leadership. And I remember when I saw him sign with the Raiders, that could be a problem. He was good when he was there in the first place, and then
it could have been a problem. But the first time I heard about it, I was I don't know, I was probably at work or doing something, and my brother-in-law, who's a diehard Chiefs fan, was like, "Dude, did you just hear that Amari Cooper's coming back to the Raiders or signed with the Raiders?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "That could be a real problem for us." And I said, "Well, it could be, given, that we just got, 2 wide receivers out of this draft in Beck and in Thornton, and we still have Jacoby Meyer, we still have Trey, and it's just one of those things where, and Brock Bowers, we have Michael Mayer. I mean, it's just, we have a lot of athletes and pieces to this puzzle that we're trying to figure out, and to add Amari Cooper, how do we adjust to that?" So, yes, it was surprising to see him just fall out and just say, "Hey, I'm just going to retire," as opposed to just, going through the season, seeing what he had to offer to the, team that gave him the chance to play in the first place, because that's who we drafted. Yeah. So I don't know how to take my perspective on that, but I know that either way, no matter who's lined up in the backfield with, our offense, we're willing to compete, and we want to compete to the best of our abilities. And if he's not there, he's not there. If he is, then he is.
So what's it going to take for them to beat the Commanders this next week? What's your take on this?
Well, I'm glad that Jalen Daniels is projected to be out, because that would have been a real big problem for us with a running quarterback, just like Justin Herbert is a primarily pocket passer, but he's also
Mobile enough.
Yeah, he's very mobile. And so it's just one of those things where it's one less thing to worry about. I don't even know who the backup is necessarily for the
Marcus Mariota.
Oh, okay,
man
an
Mariota.
ex-Raider. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So hopefully we can contain him. He's not as mobile as he was before in college and as a professional.
He's got gray hair now, man.
Yeah.
We were joking, and not that I want to change the subject or taking too much time, but we were joking about before. It's like that guy has to be like living off that, like whatever that was, 2000 whatever Chiefs playoff.
Yeah,
clip.
the-
and his Oregon Ducks
Yeah.
footage. We go for his resume. That's how he still got his a job in the league. He's like, we haven't watched this play.
Yes, you see this? I got it.
Yeah.
Still has it.
Sure.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I think there's still hope. It's still early enough in the season. You don't really know the team until later on. And any given Sunday, it's just the X's and O's. You could put it on paper, but at the end of the day, any given Sunday, any given Thursday, any given Monday, is they have to play the game. And we'll see what happens. We don't know. We're just sitting there being couch coaches and just kind of analyzing
That's
the game
across
as
all
it is.
fan bases, yeah.
Oh yeah. So they have to either come together or they fall apart for everybody to see.
I am curious. I don't want to take up too much time either.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But I want to ask, like, since we got a Raiders special guest, like all-time favorite Raiders.
My
Give me
all-time.
like maybe three.
Okay, so
Mount Rushmore.
my Mount Rushmore of all-time favorite. Okay, so I have to go with Marcus Allen.
Okay.
Okay, but before that, I'll have to go with Bo Jackson
Bo Jackson's on my list.
and Howie Long.
Yeah.
Howie Long's there, and then I'll just go ahead and because it's a division rivalry, I'll have to say that Rich Gannon.
Oh, yeah?
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, because you guys decided to take Elvis Gerback in that
Right.
situation where Rich wanted to stay, but
Yeah.
then Rich also took us to Super Bowl. Yeah. We didn't do so well in the Super Bowl against our ex-coach John Gruden, but
Yeah.
that's here or there.
Made it
right?
to the bowl.
Yeah.
We made it there, right?
Yeah, calling out the
Participation,
plays that didn't really change the offense at all.
right?
But
Yeah.
not even like my number one team. I've been a Raiders fan, but like I'd say Bo Jackson, all-time greatest athlete, like
Oh,
actually
my
great
gosh.
athlete.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to put like one because I'm also a Florida State fan, but like how do you not love Seabass? Like Sebastian Janikowski, like if there's
Oh,
ever
yeah.
a kicker to
No,
bet on,
I know.
they're smoking a cigarette.
Yeah,
on the
Yeah,
field.
he's
Like, it
the
would be
John
some bad-
Daly
He's
Yeah.
the John
of,
Daly.
of
Oh,
NFL,
yes.
Players.
Oh man, there's a great story for anybody that hasn't seen it with John Gruden talking about a kick of Janikowski's rookie year, about being hungover and they sent him out for a 57-yard
Oh,
field
yeah.
goal.
Knocked it down.
And knocked it down. He's like, great kick. So
Yeah.
it's a great story. And then another one, I was going to put Tim Brown here, but I'm going to go like, I know he wasn't a long-time Raider, and that's not what he made his career, but I always loved like beast mode. I love Marshawn Lynch.
Oh yeah, dude.
So,
yeah. Marshawn
yeah.
Lynch, you can never go wrong.
Right.
He's a character
One
on
as a
and off
player,
the field.
Yeah.
One
You
as
know,
a player and as
Give him Skittles, he's gonna be your best friend.
My favorite, that one year he was with the Raiders and they played the Chiefs and he got in a fight on the field
And he got
and
ejected.
and he got ejected and he was just on the sideline like, what'd I do? Like,
Yeah, he was acting like, hey, so
yeah, then
what?
he
You
practiced
told me to
with his
leave?
high school kids for like 2 weeks.
No, I think of him like when he's doing the sideline dance, where he's just like all getting
Oh yeah,
loud,
yeah,
like just
getting hype. Yeah. He's completely a Raider. I mean, he's always been a Raider at heart, and he's always said this that he loves the Raiders. He grew up in Oakland,
Yeah.
and so naturally, he's going to be a Raider.
Yeah.
All right, Shannon. Well, we really appreciate you coming in and giving us your Raiders wisdom.
I appreciate it.
Never had any of that takes before because you don't follow the Raiders that closely, even though they're in division. So really appreciate it. We'll definitely have to have you back on again at some point when the Raiders get things going here. And appreciate it. We'll take a quick break and we'll hop right back in. Right now, we're going to give our players of the week. Start with offensive players of the week. My offensive player of the week, which it hurts me to say as he's an ex-Bronco, Russell Wilson. Throwing moon balls to Malik Neighbors. Had a great game. He went 30 for 41, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also took 3 sacks. But and granted, he played the Cowboys, but still, older quarterback than Russell Wilson, still thrown for 450 and 3 touchdowns, and having another 23 on the ground is impressive, especially behind that offensive line that the Giants have pieced together. You could say they still lost, and my defensive player is going to be a team that lost too, but he still had a great game. But shout out Russell Wilson for still having a little bit gas left in the tank. Getting the Giants, having I'm going to steal your line, but a Texas Tech Baylor shootout type game that, these teams aren't going to win anything big, but it was still a great game to watch. Like, I kind of had it on in the background. For first, I looked up and it was like 21-17, and I was like, what's going on? Like, I thought this game was about to suck. So it was a great game on both sides of the ball, but my offensive player of the week is Russ Wilson.
That's a good pick. It's definitely, other than the inexcusable interception. You saw both sides of Old Russ, I felt, in that game. I did watch the second half of that game. But you said he put up 433 yards, and he still throws a pretty moon ball. My offensive performer of the week, mainly because after just only having 1 touchdown pass last week, he's now tied with Lamar Jackson with the most with 6, because he had 5 this week. And so my offensive player of the week is Jared Goff of the Lions, going 23 of 28 for 334 yards, a 156 passer rating, 5 touchdowns, no picks. And we were talking about before the podcast, shooting it here tonight, in that just the stability that we talked about that Jared Goff brings. And so, okay, how are they going to respond? It's not the same offense, different coordinator. They better not start off 0-2. Here's a winnable game. I understand Chicago's still a team in progress, but definitely with the way their offense looked against Green Bay, and we'll get to them in a minute, but him putting up 52, and they had 40-something midway through the third quarter. They were just cooking this. And that time, you had St. Brown making catches, and you had LaSalle, backup tight ends making catches. I think he got the ball to 9 different receivers. I would say Jared Goff and the Lions, that was one of the feel-good stories of the week, and it's nice to see them bounce back. Jared Goff is my offensive player of the week.
Yeah, we'll get into it later, but I was very impressed by the Lions. The Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell beef is very real.
Yeah.
You can see that evidently. But my defensive player of the week is another loss, but this is kind of a throwback pick. But I have Bobby Wagner with 11 total tackles. It's still a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He's still the lead. He's still the Mike linebacker that Commanders defense still has sideline-to-sideline ability. He's still he doesn't play all the snaps, obviously, because I think he's 35.
Okay.
But he's still when he's on the field, he still runs around like he's playing with the Seahawks in the Legion of Boom. So Bobby Wagner is my defensive player of the week. I was very impressed by him because kind of forget he's up there on the Seahawks, and then you see B-Wag out there just his old self with his dark visor. You can't see him. He takes a fine every game for that. He just goes out there and balls out for being old as shit on the Commanders.
That's a good take. I've kind of got 2. As far as I know we're talking about individuals, but as far as as a team effort, I want to again mention the Green Bay Packers. Again, I did call last week that Micah Parsons would have another sack when the Green Bay win, and he did that. And this is the first time, and it's kind of a specific statistic, but not a long history. But it's the first time that a team started off with a Sunday night and a Thursday game against playoff teams and won them both. And so, and you look at, we talked about last week coming into that game, you're talking about the Commanders, and again, both games were in Green Bay, but you're talking about the Commanders and the Lions. Both teams at least made to the divisional round. And just like week 1, the Commanders kind of get some late points, but the game was never really as close as what the final score. And a complete dominant performance by that Green Bay defense. Whereas, again, we'll talk about them later in their offense and some things that they did, that they have going for them, and Jordan Love and the 85, their tight end, it's a young tight end. But that's my team, and then the other one would be. But the player I'm thinking about is in the biggest game by far of the week was the Eagles-Chiefs game, and by far the biggest play of that game. I'm going to elect. I think his last name is Makuba, the defensive back for the Eagles, who was there, made the play. I know Kelsey bobbled the ball. I said, but kudos to him for crossing, being there to make a play on the ball, and then returning it and putting them in scoring position. So big players make big plays in big time moments. I said that was probably the biggest play of the weekend. So that's why I have him as my individual defensive player of the week.
Going to a new segment here. A segment I've been very excited about that we've been talking about since the idea of this podcast came out. But we're going to go over things that made us twitch this week.
Yeah, and those for you who don't know, I'm pretty open. I joke about, but I have Tourette's. I just don't usually have the cussing kind. So if I'm cussing, it's usually at my team, but not
You don't have the
because
fun kind.
I don't have the fun kind. But things that made me twitch this week, I know, or you're going to go with yours.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stay with my own Steelers in the kickoff, late second half, down 17-14, gave up the go-ahead score. Rookie Johnson's back there for the Steelers and just lets it hit right off his helmet, and then thinks it was college rules, so it's going to be a touchback or a safety. So starts jogging towards the sideline in a 17-14 game, and then about halfway through back to the sideline, once the team's like already in the end zone, it's a live ball. It's like, oh shit, it's too late. They scored, and by that point, that's completely changed the game. So things that made me twitch, that one for sure. Danny Smith is known for being one of the top heads for special teams coaches. He's been in Pittsburgh in a long time, so I guarantee it's kind of like they typically are well coached or well buttoned up with the rules. Like if you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, like they usually know that kind of stuff. So that's just inexcusable in a moment like that. I know he's a rookie, he's a good player. He's got a lot of potential, but that was number one that made me twitch.
Yeah, you might develop the cussing kind after plays like that.
Yeah. My thing that made me twitch, Broncos special teams unit, you could say. And it's not necessarily them, it's more so the Broncos went down to put the game into a 6-point game or into a 5-point game to kick a field goal, and he missed it. The guy shanks the field goal, Will Lutz, still love our kicker. He came in clutch. But then the Broncos Colts get the ball, drive within. I think he attempted a 64-yard field goal. He misses it, but we get called for a leveraging call, which basically means that we're pushing up off one of a D lineman, and trying to get our hands up. And so we got personal foul for that 15 yards. He makes the next one. Broncos lose by a point. And then, so I heard that. I saw they lost by the field goal. I was like, whatever, because I didn't watch the game because it wasn't on in our area. And then I go back, and when the Broncos missed the kick, they had a player doing the exact same thing in the exact same spot on the field, doing it, and they didn't call it, which don't want to sound like a Chiefs fan here and say, or people hating on the Chiefs last year, all the refs helping them all the time. But, I mean, it happens. Calls go either way. It's kind of like takes me back to the Saints-Rams game when the Rams could have went to the Super Bowl or went to the championship game.
Yeah.
But it was still just it just pissed me off because that's
Made you twitch.
It made me twitch. It was
Welcome
genuinely
to my world.
But yeah, that's my made me twitch. LSV, do you have a moment from this NFL weekend that made you twitch?
I want to say, sorry. I want to say it's just like I was watching the end of the Chiefs-Eagles game, and I was with some friends, and I had on my phone was watching that kick. 60-yard field goal. He shanks it right. Everyone there's like, oh shit, the Broncos are 2-0. And I watched for probably 15, 20 seconds on my phone. No red. They didn't have the icon, the yellow flag or whatever. So I turn it off. I go to watch the sun. I do some other stuff, and then I watch till halftime, but they don't have the clicker on all the time on NBC. Yeah. So I'm watching the Falcons-Vikings game. It wasn't until Monday morning that I realized, my buddy who's a Broncos fan was like, what are you talking about? We lost. I'm like, no, you didn't. He shanked that kick. Didn't even realize that, sure enough, 29-28. What a terrible way to lose. I did see something, again, I think it was kind of a bogus call. I mean, kind of just like ticky-tack.
Yeah.
But there was another one where you're obviously not supposed to pull the center down on the snapper. But I guarantee Sean Payton's going over that stuff with him this week. But what a tough way to lose because they really should have won that game.
Yeah, it was just crazy. But
anyway, I'm sorry, Greg.
No.
But you got your things that made you twitch this week.
I think for a lot of people, especially those Chiefs fans out there, the mishandled ball by Kelsey on the one in what's obviously a scoring drive, which would give the Chiefs the opportunity to control the narrative for the rest of the game. I mean, that's so non-like Kels. I don't think of the 80,000 people that were at that game that anybody's more upset about that than him. So, I give him some grace with that. But in that moment, when you know how big this game is, to get one up there, and a little pride being restored after that last Super Bowl, yeah, that made me twitch a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty obvious what it came down to between Andy Reid going for, and I'd like to know your take on the going for it right after halftime 14-14, going from your own 30-some yard line. But
I think it was a good call. You can play armchair quarterback on Monday all you want.
Right.
In that moment, I said out loud, because I was over at the Angry Pig Saloon, shout out to Mark, and I said, I like that call because you need to be the aggressive team in that situation, and you're playing to be the more dominant team, and that's what it takes. And they just fell short. So
Well, and we still anticipate Kansas City, even starting off 1-2, being a top 8 team of Philadelphia. So it just goes to show that margin of error. You have that play and the missed field goal, and then the bobble interception with Kelsey. Is like the biggest difference was those 3 plays. Who's shooting themselves in the foot and who didn't? Philadelphia just played a damn near perfect game. It may not always been flashy, but they did enough to beat Kansas City.
Real quick before I move to the next thing, I'm with LSV on that one. I respect him. I know Andy Reid's top 5, top 3 greatest coach of all time, probably at this point. But Andy Reid, I mean, you got to, in that moment, like he's trying to establish, like, hey, these guys beat us last year. We're going to get this here. We're going to go on a run. Like, I mean, I understand the calling behind it, and I feel like a lot of armchair quarterbacks, like we've said, a lot of armchair quarterbacks don't understand that. But from, like, I trust Big Red. I trust Sean Payton. Like, these guys, these are Super Bowl winning guys that they might not always make the best decision in the world, but unless you're the Jaguars, we'll get into that later about Liam Cohen blaming his loss on statistics, which, you lost in the points statistics. So.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to roll into some injuries here. We got the J quarterbacks not looking too hot. But Joe Burrow out for 3 months. Crazy. We'll get into a little bit of trade talk later with that one. And then J.J. McCarthy out 2 to 3 weeks with a high ankle sprain. This is a defensive back, but Jalen Johnson, an all-pro corner for the Bears, are out, which the Bears defense kind of seemed like they were starting to click a little bit, and now he's out. And then Jay Daniels is questionable with a knee sprain. And, I mean, it's questionable. They don't really know, but, I mean, this early in the season, I'm guessing they're going to rest their guy to let him get back because why would you throw him away on a Week 3 game when you need him in a Week 17 game? And then Justin Fields is in quarterback protocol. So the only J that made it out healthy that I can think off the top of my head is Justin Herbert. And he got the dub. But, just reaction, pure knee-jerk reaction to these injuries for me. I'm only going to go with 2 because the other ones are they're still might play. But Joe Burrow being out might. Jake Browning, he filled in last year, 2 years ago, with his injury, with Joe Burrow's injury. He went 4-3 as a Bengal starter towards the end there. 12 touchdowns with 7 INTs. But he came in the game and he wasn't scared to throw the ball. He threw 3 interceptions. So shout out the Bengals. Shout out the Bengals defense for actually clutching up who we said were going to be weakness. He also threw 2 touchdowns, but I'd be interested to see
including the go-ahead late.
A go-ahead get-up touchdown on the Bengals. And I'll be interested to see if the Bengals are in the trade market for a quarterback to come in and say, hey, we just signed these 2 receivers, top 2 paid wide receivers in the league. Like, do we need to trade for a decent caliber quarterback to come out here and get these guys the ball, or are they going to trust Jake Browning until Burrow gets back in December?
Right.
And then J.J. McCarthy, all I got to say is should have kept Kirk. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to give up on J.J. McCarthy yet, but when he was in the game last week, he did not look good at all, and he didn't turn it on like the week before with the Bears. And I'm not a Vikings fan, so I don't have faith in my quarterback. Here, watching him play in 2 NFL games, I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be very good. Right. And this might come back to bite me at the end of the year, and we're like, wow, J.J. McCarthy's next coming to Patrick Mahomes, but as of right now, no. Should have kept Kirk.
No, I think the first one I want to talk about, obviously one of the biggest stories of the NFL through 2 weeks is Joe Burrow. So now we're talking about year 6 in the league, and this will be at least the 3rd year, 2 out of 3, where he's going to miss significant time. So looking at that 3-month diagnosis, if everything goes well, it's like, okay, Ken Browning, somebody said 4-3, former 2016 Pac-12 offensive player.
Yes.
Showing a little respect. I'm trying to talk him up, even though it's the Bengals.
Pac-12 after dark champion, baby.
Right. But can they stay relevant enough? And with the schedule that the AFC North has this year, I don't think that's most likely. I said, but he has played competitive. Like, kudos to him, like I said, for getting the late game-winning drive. I mean, he's not really losing. I don't know if anybody's ever seen like what his wife looks like.
Yeah, he's going to be
that's
okay in
terrible, I
life,
shouldn't
guys.
say.
He's going to be okay in life.
But that's just it. I mean, you're talking about what that means as far as like I had the Bengals most likely making at least till the divisional round and being a sleeper team, even with the questions on the defense, and like now him missing it. Some other statistics I wanted to point out about that is Andrew Luck. You know, of course, he had his career shortened because of inconsistent offensive line play in 71 games. I saw the statistic today. He was sacked, not just hit, but sacked 157 times. Through that same time frame for Joe Burrow, it's 201 times. So, you know, that's like to me. I don't know. Do you go out? I don't know who else is to go out there still. To be honest, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if somebody like a Carson Wentz or somebody like that's like who. Obviously, that's a bad example because
he's going to start.
He's going to start for Minnesota, but like somebody like that
Kirk
caliber. Yes,
it's hard to find a quality quarterback you think you could come in and trust an offense like that.
Especially when they're already tying up and short on money for what they're paying for those wide receivers. So it's like I thought that was obviously the big one. I haven't seen as far as like Daniels. I think the Commanders will be just fine because I think they're bouncing up on offense. And I'm sorry, Sharon, but like Shannon. Sorry, I said Sharon.
Marcus Mariota is not a terrible quarterback.
But like their schedule, so they have a couple winnable games where with an early bye, so they could. Like, I think like the Commanders are in a good position. I said, but that's a big news. That's the big injury to me. I said, but none bigger than the Burrow.
Yeah.
I mean, that changes the AFC North and like the playoff picture in my mind. Now, if they can survive, as I said, he might be like a Ryan Fitzpatrick even if he plays like 500. If they're like in the thick of the playoff hunt, it's mid-December. It still takes a game or two, like with an injury in the middle of the season. But I mean, it's highly unlikely, but it's possible if Browning can keep him competitive. Maybe Burrow. Traditionally, because he's had other injuries, has healed fast. Maybe he comes back earlier, mid-December, and then is there for the playoff run. But like, I just don't see that most likely happening, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. I saw the Andrew Luck thing today too, and I was going to bring it up. But that's great. Like, we saw what happened to Andrew Luck. He retired in what people say would have been the prime of his career. Like, he was starting to get in the league, but he had so many injuries, and hopefully it doesn't happen to Joe Burrow. I enjoy watching Joe Burrow play football. I don't enjoy him being in the AFC. I mean, he beat the Broncos last year when we needed to win 1 in 3 games, and we lost that one of those 3 games to him. But, I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens with the Bengals. I'm guessing they're going to roll with Browning, but if Browning can't get it done, it'll be interesting to see if a Kirk Cousins goes there or like a Jameis Winston maybe. Yeah. Or, I mean, those are the top 2 in my head that would be on the move as veteran quarterbacks who come in and move it. But besides that,
sorry, real quick. I think I saw something just today. That's one of the rocks they were turning over was actually interested. I don't know what the truth of the report was, but I was actually looking at Jameis Winston. So
I mean, he can throw the ball down the field.
We talk about he's always entertaining though. Yeah. Regardless, like
I mean, the man is the only one in the 30-30 club. It's pretty entertaining if you ask me.
But yeah, you're not going to be able to replace a Joe Burrow.
Yeah, obviously, especially unless they put together some big trade package or something to get like a low level starter, like I don't even know I could think of like a Kyler Murray maybe but you have to find somebody that fits that style of offense too. Like you got to find a guy who's willing to stand in the pocket and throw it 50 air yards down the field.
Right.
But we're rolling into our question of the week here. Get everybody's take on this one. So does Mac Jones getting the win last week, throwing 2 touchdown passes, does Mac Jones getting the win prove that Shanahan produces great system quarterbacks and Brock Purdy and Jimmy G were not that great in the first place? We'll roll to, in my opinion, I'll start off here. In my opinion, I think Purdy holds his own. I think Purdy would be a good, across the board, I've always been a Purdy fan, just Iowa State guy. I'm a Pac-12 bias guy. Or not Pac-12, Big 12 bias guy. But I think Purdy would be a really good backup quarterback if he wasn't in Shanahan's office. But Shanahan proving that Mac Jones could come in, and Mac Jones holds his own right. He's a first round pick. He's a good pick quarterback, obviously. But I think that Shanahan's offense definitely helps his quarterbacks out a lot and helps them look a lot better than they maybe truly are.
I think it's a combination of both, and I hate to take the cop out, but because like Mac Jones, I was never a firm believer. I said I know he won the championship with Alabama, but I wasn't a believer that it would translate to the NFL. But because of the system like that Shanahan builds, like, even with Purdy being out last year, like did some nice things with the backup. But I think like this last weekend, for instance, we'll find out the next couple of weeks because I think they're having Purdy out at least the next 2 games, possibly 3. So I think he is a more than serviceable, like borderline starter, low in my mind with Mac Jones. But can still make the plays. But I think it's also because they were playing the Saints. Too, you know what I mean? I think it's a quality opponent, and like I said, it's also because of I think that it really is both. I think Mac is above average replacement or backup, but also like Shanahan's offensive mind, like, hey, don't screw it up, just do this. We're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
We have good enough defense. We're not playing a great offensive team with Spencer Rattler, and like who's actually played pretty well through 2 weeks, surprisingly.
Yeah, kind of under the radar.
Yes,
not terrible
because no one's watching the Saints.
Yeah, obviously.
But I think it's a combination of both. Obviously, like we talk about, like Shanahan being a top 4 or 5 mastermind, and like to still be figuring it out, and then the Niners being 2-0. It's a test. It's because of Shanahan's been. He's had the Niners consistent every year, but last year I think was, in my opinion, just way too many injuries on both sides of the ball. But I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I just saw that one and I was like, that's a good question after this week. Obviously, Mac Jones is a first round pick. He's a good quarterback, but we'll roll into a Chiefs Eagles recap here. I'm pretty sure I don't know about everybody. Did we not record that?
No, we did.
All right.
I forgot to start my timer.
Clip it at 17 minutes. Remember, write that down.
17 minutes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. So rolling into a Chiefs-Eagles recap here. Obviously, Super Bowl rematch from last year. Eagles were favored in this game. I think there was a statistic. I'm not going to try to pull it off the top of the dome, but the winning percentage for the returning Super Bowl champion was pretty high across the board in the rematch game, the first coming back the next year. But Eagles get the win in this one. The Chiefs way more competitive than the Super Bowl, obviously. It was a fun game to watch. It was good back and forth. Mahomes' supporting cast is still not all there. Obviously, he's still missing Rice. Worthy's out. The run game's been kind of non-existent, so to say, when your quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, is leading the team in rush yards. It's probably not the best look in the world, especially because Mahomes seems to thrive when he has a good rush game. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what's going on with Pacheco. I don't know if his injury last year set him back, but he just doesn't seem to be near as explosive as he was his rookie year for sure, and then last year before he got hurt. But Eagles get a good win. Little fun fact, I don't know if it's a fun fact, but after the game when Jalen Hurts took a knee, Chris Jones said, "Bitch, you didn't even have 100 yards." And he said, "Well, we still got the win, didn't we?" And that was just an enjoyable mic'd up moment because, I mean, that's Eagles football summed up is offense doesn't have a great game, but they're going to score their 20 points or they're going to get that edge, and their defense is good enough to hold whoever they're playing to hopefully under their score. Mm-hmm. But that's my take from that game is Eagles got it done. Chiefs are 0-2, which I'm not. If I was a Chiefs fan, I wouldn't be scared at all. I mean, you still got Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce. Now, if this goes on for a while and we end up 1-5, 1-6 these next couple weeks, then I'd be like, okay, what's going on? But still across the board, I mean.
I know Mark and I were talking over there at the Angry Pig Saloon that, everybody's aware the last time the Chiefs did a quarterback sneak, what happened to Patrick against the Broncos.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to see that happen again. But the advantage that the Eagles have over the brotherly shove, the tush push, whatever you want to call it, in those fourth down situations where the Chiefs are in that, and you think, you know what, at some point, do we go back and rethink a quarterback sneak with your boy Patrick Mahomes? I mean, obviously teams wouldn't expect it because they know that we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get anybody hurt, but I mean, the Eagles have just put a patent on that play,
yeah.
and that would have made a difference on a couple different drives, I think. So that's tough. It's a good question that Mark had. So shout out to you again, Marky.
Yeah. Real quick before Twitch goes here is the Eagles, like you said, like they like that's their play. Like there was a time that it was on that last drive that the Eagles had before they iced the clock. Is Nick Not Nick Mabito. I'm thinking about a Chiefs player. But Bolton went up and just touched the center. He said, no, you're not running that shit. You're going to give you a first down, and we're going to try to stop you on this next drive. Because they get inside that 3rd and 2, 4th and 2. Like, teams know what's coming, and they still can't get it. So.
And that was the right call.
Yeah. That's
Until you stop it.
Yeah, you reset the downs. You make them call something other than their play that works, it seems like 95% of the time, if not more. So.
Well, yeah, piggybacking off of that, we'll stay with that first when I talk about that game. I said, but the late touchdown that they kind of put away to put him up 20-10, when it was 3rd and goal from the 1, I said to the people I was watching it with, I was like, even if they don't get it here, like, I'm running the push 2 plays around, I'm going to get 1 yard. So even when Kansas City stopped him to make it 4th down, the whole stadium knew it was coming and still walked into the end zone. So it's just, you got a guy that can squat 600 pounds. I do have some questions on whether some of them go off sides, like a little bit
very
of false
much
start.
so. Very much so.
But no, it's just like it's a big win for Philadelphia, for Kansas City. I think that we talked about it earlier in the podcast, and that is it was which team made the least amount of mistakes and big mistakes, and that was obviously Philadelphia. Kansas City had their chances. I think for Kansas City, I think their biggest thing is finding identity on both sides of the ball. They definitely got some sacks and got some pressure, but it wasn't consistent with Hurts. And like I said last week, and I'm not even saying it to boast, it's about exactly like the Chargers. I said it's going to come down to the end. It's going to be a close game, and I question it's going to be can the Chiefs make a stop? And then at the end of the game, whatever it was, 3 or 4 first downs for the Eagles, they couldn't make that stop. So Kansas City's got to figure that out, get consistent pressure. And then I feel like on offense, their identity is just basically, yes, we're seeing the effects of Worthy because he's the guy that can take the top off the defense. And, so with Rice being out, of course, those are probably his top 2 receivers, as good as Juju is and some of these other guys. Thornton had made a couple of big plays. I know he had a couple of times where Mahomes missed passes. But long story short, it feels like no run game. But it feels like for the Chiefs so far through the first 2 weeks, the main story is, or their identity on offense, I should say, is just we got Patrick Mahomes to just make something happen. Yeah. And so more often than not, he does. I said, but I thought overall Kelsey played a lot better game. I think he was at 4 or 5 catches at about 70 yards. He still looks like a little bit different moving around out there. So it still is one of Patrick Mahomes' security blankets and made big play after big play. But Kansas City's got to figure it out because I think that they will and they'll be fine. They'll still be a playoff team because I trust in Patrick Mahomes. But something else I want to, like I mentioned earlier, is in that again that I know they play the Chargers twice, but right now we're 2 weeks into the season. They're 3 games back of the Chargers, and then to go along with that, we're talking about halfway through the season, but 5 of the next 7 opponents, just to kind of go over for the Chiefs. They have the Ravens coming up. They have at Buffalo coming up. They've got the Lions coming up. They've got the Commanders, which going off early reports would be the time where Daniels is back. Yeah. And they've got Jacksonville, who's a lot better than what we thought at the beginning of the year, competitive. And it's in Jacksonville on Monday Night Football, so that's not as hard as some of the other games I mentioned. But then the other one was a primetime game with all these other injuries and stuff. You got the Giants this weekend, and last but not least, I'm sorry, I'm looking at and then of course the Raiders. But I'm just saying that's not infeasible. I'm not trying to say the sky is falling. I think the Chiefs will be fine. I had them losing this week and still being fine for the season, but definitely to figure out an identity on both sides of the ball. And it's not if they don't get their shit together. It's not unfathomable for them to have 3 or 4 of those losses. Now you're out of 7 games, you're talking out of 4 and 5, 5 and 14, which is literally unprecedented territory with Patrick Mahomes. So I hope the Kansas City, and I think Kansas City we'll get to that in our picks. I said I think they'll bounce back this week. I said, but that's what I noticed from the game was just again it just looked too choppy on offense, inconsistent pressure. And here's the thing: overall, I think the defense still played really good. You give up that late touchdown, you give them a short field. That's I think part of the reason why also Andy was comfortable enough. If they didn't make it early, is because they did hold them to a field goal. So even including that 3 points, you still held the Eagles to 20 points. So, and I still trust Spag. So hopefully Kansas City gets back off the schneid and can pick up their first win because the schedule doesn't get easier the next month coming up.
Yeah, just hopefully they figure it out. As a Broncos fan, hopefully they don't figure it out. But for Chiefs fans, hopefully they get it figured out, and I think they will. But let's roll into some other games, some good games this weekend to recap. We hit on it a little bit earlier with your Offensive Player of the Week, but we'll roll Lions. Bears here, 52-21. Lions looked like last year's Lions a little bit there. Granted, Bears, a little bit of a banged-up Bears defense, but Lions were rolling, got, like you said, 9 different receivers catch the ball, and there's only 5 skill position guys on the field. So, really great showing. That defense is kind of finding their groove, so to say. Hutch is still, I mean, if you watch the game, you could tell Hutch is still not 100% confident on that leg that he hurt, but he's still getting pressure. But I was very impressed by, they always have Dan Campbell at the end of the day. And like we talked about before, and you talked about earlier, offensive player, like Jared Goff he's going to give you everything he's got, which might not be the greatest in the world, but there's a lot worse results. And he's a good distribute the ball to your guys. They got Knuckles and Sonic going, the 2 running backs, Montgomery and Gibbs, going last week. So I was very impressed by the Lions coming back out after the week 1, I guess you could say, debacle maybe. I don't know what you would call that, but I was very impressed with the Lions. And Bears have room to grow, obviously. They're a young team trying to find identity still.
No, I think Jared Goff's he's kind of like you said, he's not on the Mahomes and those kind of guys level, but the next tier.
Yeah.
And he has been when he was with the Rams. And so he's better than 2/3 of the quarterbacks in there or that are out there, and is a proven winner, done it at multiple spots now. And I think he's a good point guard. He's like a better point guard than I don't know if he's as athletic, but almost like an Alex Smith. Like I said, he wins 75% of the time. It may not always be flashy, but he knows how to get his guys the ball. And like I said, in a moment we're just oh my gosh, we had such a terrible showing on offense the week before, and just the history of Detroit, and how last year was supposed to be their year, and 15-2, and so oh man, we're playing a division rival. Are we going to start off 0-2? No, Jared Goff and the way the way that team believes, they did exactly what they picked off. Like you said, they look more like the Lions from last year. Like I said, I don't remember I don't have it right in front of me. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I said it was 41 or 44 points midway through the third quarter, and it was even times where I would kind of dismiss Chicago. It'd be 21-7, and then it was 21-14, then it'd be 28-14. There for a while, okay, Chicago was answering. Detroit scored early, and it was 7-7. Chicago was trying to stay in the game, and then between Williams and St. Brown and Gibbs, they looked completely unstoppable on offense. So I was really excited to see that for Chicago. There's not much to say about Chicago. You give up 52 points, and I said, other than the wide receiver, I said I didn't really have much else to talk about last week.
Really?
And again, we've got family and friends that are Bears fans. We don't sit there to talk smack, but just not a lot. Talk about the state of the Bears last week.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Rolling into another game here that we hit on earlier. My offensive player of the week came out of this game, but Cowboys beat the Giants in overtime. A quick stat here before we get into it. So the Giants lost. Aubrey kicks a 64-yard field goal. Don't want to disrespect Aubrey. He's I think he's 9 for 10 on over 60-yard field goals. Guy's just got a leg. He's got a cannon. But I'm pulling up the stat here because I don't want to butcher it here.
You put 2903 or something.
Yeah.
But so fun fact here is 21% of all the 60-yard field goals kicked since 2014. So overall, 21% of them have been against the Giants in the fourth quarter as time expires. And so they've lost on 60-yard field goals probably more than any team and since 2014 is basically what that stat's saying. So the Giants, obviously, Russell Wilson comes out and has kind of a retirement game minus the interception that cost him the game, so to say. And Cowboys get the win. It's a good division win for them. They're not dead, obviously. They're still fighting down there. You can still sell their defense, obviously, giving up that many points to a lackluster Giants team, you could say, with Cam Scabadoo being there, seeming like he just wants to hit people and not score touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's a beast. I have respect for him, but maybe Cam, instead of running through the Mike linebacker, maybe hit a cut backside and score a touchdown instead. But I saw a report the other day, and I don't know how true it is, but he used to take his brother's football pads and go hit telephone poles to get fired up for football. And there's not a lot of guys I'd be like, yeah, that's probably true, but I can see Cam doing it. across the board. But shout out the Cowboys for getting it done this last week against a division rival. Shout out the Giants for making an interesting 12 o'clock game that I was not paying attention to until I looked up and saw the scores. Like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, so sticking with that game, so that was definitely one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. Like I said, you and I were talking about before about it being like an old Baylor, Texas Tech. Neither team's going to win the national championship game, but you're just watching just for like the back and forth. There were 6 lead changes in this game, and 9 of the last 10 drives in regulation ended in points. And so, like, for those who didn't watch, I was watching the second half. I had it on back and forth. I was kind of flipping between that and the Lions game. Some of the Bills, that game got ugly really fast.
Yeah.
But I was watching my Steelers piss down their leg. I had this game on as the background. And so, like, with Russell Wilson, I thought for sure once he threw that dime with 30 seconds left that there's no way. But, like I said, shout out to Aubrey and the Cowboys kicker. I think we've already seen 3. I could be wrong on this. There's been 3 or 4 kicks already. At least 3 kicks, Boswell being one of them, where there's 60-plus yard field goals to either win or tie in regulation, and every single one of them has been right down the middle. So talk about pressure of like for kickers nowadays. But yeah, that's a huge win for the Cowboys. Just their fan base, and taking it rightfully so to a certain degree, taking all the flack from the Micah Parsons trade. If you're a Dallas fan, you look at it like that probably still isn't. That's probably still a sensitive subject. I've got Cowboys friends, so maybe that'll be one of our guests in the future. But difference between like they lose to a good Philadelphia team, basically like a homecoming game. Like in week 1, they play Philadelphia really close, and then just to get a win. Again, I don't necessarily think they're going to go. It'll lead into them making the playoffs. I said, but Dak Prescott was hurt a lot last year, and he's another one that takes a lot of flack. Yes, he's lost some leads or lost games before. He's been in the league a long time. Still athletic enough, even though he's not quite like what he used to be. But one thing I definitely noticed was the involvement of people like George Pickens getting involved. So that's scary to think about because CD still got his receptions and touchdowns. So it's just like that's something if you're a Dallas fan to be encouraged by is the offense figuring it out. Obviously a little bit discouraging if you're on the defensive side, giving up 433 passing yards and over 500 total yards offense. Yeah. But big win for the Cowboys. For the Giants, 2 tough losses. I said, they played the Commanders tough, 2 divisional games. But I'm like you said, for what version of Russell we saw at the end of last year, Wilson definitely sure they can still play or buy some time. And you have some guys like Malik Neighbors and stuff that looks like a bona fide superstar. So definitely some pieces for the Giants to build around. They really should have had that game won. Yeah. But their own defense obviously gave up too many big plays. But kudos to the Cowboys, 1-1, and they got a. Speaking of those same 2 teams, they got one against the Bears this week. So we got 2 teams that struggle with pass defense. That could be another entertaining game. Yeah.
Rolling into our last game, we're going to recap here. I'll get into the Broncos recap earlier. It was a good game in my opinion. I mean, still lost. But the other Monday Night Football game, Bucs-Texans. Shout out Baker Mayfield for having that clutch factor. Obviously, seems like he's always had it. Also, shout out Baker Mayfield from going scout team D lineman on the Carolina Panthers to starting quarterback for the Bucs. But Bucs get the win 20-19 with a last-minute drive by the Buccaneers to go down the field. Both quarterbacks looked better than they did the week before. Baker Mayfield had 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then C.J. Stroud kind of bounced back with 207 yards and 1 touchdown, which last week he had an interception that kind of cost him the game there at the end against the Rams. And also talking, I guess you can say crap on the Browns is Nick Chubb getting the go-ahead touch, what we thought was going to be the go-ahead touchdown for the Texans to win that game. Browns are just really good at letting go players and then them thriving in other places, which makes me very happy that Myles Garrett got re-signed because Myles Garrett on another team would be scary. But really just my main takeaway from this game, and it was a good game across the board. I got home about halftime after coaching, but my main takeaway from this is just Baker Mayfield's dog inside of him. That's all I can. I mean, he got laid out by C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and he's on the field. Like you could tell he's hurting, But then he's like, I saw a bunch of memes about it, so I'm going to steal it. But he popped up and he was like, oh, I forgot. I got to talk shit to this guy because I ran him over. And that's just who Baker Mayfield's always been. Like, obviously, in my head, I think of the KU Oklahoma game. Like, they didn't want to shake his hand, and he took that personally. It's kind of like the MJ sitting there on The Last Dance. And I took that personally, and it was something so small that wasn't that important. But Baker Mayfield getting it done. Texans are 0-2, and you might want to start thinking about panicking because the Colts look really good in that division. So if the Texans don't start clicking and figuring it out, you could have a 10-win Texans team sitting at home on the couch.
Yeah.
But Bucs are 2-0 in the division; they should win.
Yeah.
I mean, and you always, no matter who the Bucs play the rest of the year, you got to worry about it. They got the Jets coming up this week, which should be a good game. But I'm really interested for this Eagles game that's in 2 weeks because Baker Mayfield seems like a guy that I don't care who you are. I'm going to come out there and sling the ball. And it's also scary to think about when Chris Godwin gets back because he's been out. And their rookie receiver is tied for receiving touchdowns in Abuke. I think I'm saying his name right. He's on my fantasy team. Love the guy to death.
Yeah.
So, and Mike Evans is still Mike Evans. He's still going up for jump balls. But very impressed with the Buccaneers win. Very seem to be dangerous. Don't want to see in the playoffs Buccaneers team because you don't know what you're going to get out of these guys.
Right. No, there's a couple of things to take away from this game. I said, like, I will say, like, I this is another one where I hate to say I told you so. I said, but I said last week I thought that Tampa Bay would win because of Baker Mayfield making plays at the end and being clutch. And here we are 2 weeks in a row. Atlanta has looked a lot better than what people expected. Both times hostile environments. I have been to Houston before. That is a loud. It's a sneaky loud stadium. Not want to start off 0-2. Only 2 minutes and 19 seconds left.
Yeah.
And Baker just goes down the field and just picks them apart. So I do have some stats I want to put up with Baker that people don't realize that since joining the Bucs, Baker Mayfield is tied for the most touchdowns in the NFL. Fourth quarter touchdowns. He's got the most fourth quarter touchdowns since he's been with Tampa Bay. He's got 12 comebacks in his relatively short career. 23 with the one last night. 23 scoring drives in the fourth quarter overtime. I mean, the guy's just when the lights matter, they're like, oh, he's not quite as tall. He doesn't have the arm that he's got moxie. He's got like guys respond to that. And when you have enough pieces like that, like I've got Irving on my fantasy team and White, you got a pretty good 1-2. I mean, I don't have it right in front of me, but I would say probably what it was 6 of the 10 plays or something like that went to either White or Irving. And then you still have Mr. Consistent and Mike Evans, and then you have Godwin, and so then you have Amuka who's looked like an absolute freaking steal. Like, and that's somebody that you might look at the end of the year like as a rookie. He's like he can make that big play if you need a 3rd and 6. And people might not remember this, but last year, I mean, going back to last year, Tampa Bay has won 8 out of 9 games, with their only loss being a Commander's field goal in Washington out of the playoffs, which Baker has no part in that.
Yeah.
And they're a team they're the last team. I think they're the last team or one of them that thumped the Eagles before they figured it out last year. Like the Bucs have traditionally had the Eagles number. Do I necessarily think they're going to overjump them? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if they have quite that, but they have a pretty complete team. And the only thing I want to talk about both squads yesterday, and for those that didn't watch the game or watch bits and pieces or just watch the box score, like, oh, it's 14-13 and 14-10 forever. But like I did watch most of that game, and I will say, especially the second half, the number of times like both quarterbacks had 2 or 3 first downs, and then a big 3rd down sacks. Like the defense on both sides, even the Texans, the defense was flying around, consistently applying pressure on both sides. So it just makes it that much more incredible. And for Houston, I feel like it's, and I hate to just say the same thing as with Kansas City, but I feel like they're trying to figure out an offensive identity, or that consistently with C.J. Stroud, because I'm a C.J. Stroud believer. But in that game when it was still, I believe it was still 14-10, and they went for it twice. And they got stopped. It said they had one in the right corner where he overthrew him, and they threw it to the left and overthrew him in the left. So just this little touch passes, those things like were strapped. Now, granted, they did come back and to take the lead. He made a huge 3rd and 11 play, scramble, and then to the first down, the tight end Schultz. Real question. I don't want to spend much time about it. Going back to the Nick Chubb thing, do you think, and this is kind of a side subject, but do you think that they allowed them to score? Or do you think that was a legitimate touchdown? Because I was sitting there, I couldn't quite tell going back at the replay, because I'm like, obviously you're not guaranteed to get the ball back.
Yeah.
And Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded coach, And it kind of looked, by the time they got to the secondary, they kind of let him score because they were on that side of the 2-minute warning. So, like, do you think that was his intention, was Nick Chubb having that touchdown? And B, what would you do in that situation? Like, would it be better to score and then, like, okay, well, now you're down by 5, but you know your offense is going to get the ball back. We trust Baker. Or do you sit there and go, like, well, they're already at probably a 36, 40-yard field goal as it is right now anyway, and let's let you stop them, and they could maybe run the clock out. It's not guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that it was, they call it, like, in my head, like, they called it in the huddle. They said, okay, we can stop him. Let's stop him and hold him to a field goal.
Yeah.
But if he gets past the 10-yard mark, okay, hey, just let him score. We have a guy on offense that'll get it done for us.
Yeah.
Which we've seen before with, defensive players throwing guys into the end zone to go ahead to trust their offense to come back and win it. But that's one of those that, you want this guy to try to field goal, but I think also, like, once you get to a certain point, you're like, all right, let them score. We know we have a guy on offense that has, like you said, all those fourth quarter comebacks, leads the NFL in touchdowns in general since he's joined the Bucs. Like, I mean, it makes defensively, it's a decision that you'd have to make, and it also shows Todd Bowles being who everybody said he should get fired 2 years ago. It seemed like after Brady retired, which obviously we saw post Belichick with Brady. So I'm glad Bowles has been able to re-up out. I guess you could say refigure it out after Bruce Arians left. But we're rolling to state of the Broncos and Chiefs here, and Chiefs and Steelers. And we'll come up with an NFC team we want to talk about. But first, we have an ad read. Our first ad read here is by T&J Auto Performance, a local car builder who shows us what it's like to work for himself for 5 years with 21 years experience working on Hondas. Pat posts stuff what it's like working by himself or with his wife Tiffany on different cars, showing raw content what it's like about working and owning at your own small business. I've seen Pat work on many things. We helped him pull a Hellcat engine one time. We have helped him put rotors on cars. Pat can do about anything you want, and he's all self-taught. So if you ever go check him out on YouTube at T&J Auto Performances, on TikTok, Instagram, that's their handle on any social media you could want. Make sure you go give them a like and a follow, and make sure down in the comments to drop that Twitch and Box sent you for a free chance to win some free merch with him. Pat just hit 1,000 subscribers. He's super hype about it, and he's super hyped to come on this podcast someday and give his takes on some NFL stuff. So we'd really appreciate it. You go support T&J Auto, and obviously we appreciate you guys supporting us.
All right, so let's turn this over to Sluice. Sluice does a great job of breaking down all the upcoming games for the next week. So let's get into this week's picks. What do you got for us, Sluice? What's the first game on the week?
On the docket here.
Just lost in my notes.
But I'm excited for week 3 picks. Twitch beat my ass this week again. Nearly beat my ass. I had a more respectable showing in my opinion. But I still Twitch still beat me, so if you're gonna follow anybody's bets, follow this guy's.
Right.
With that being said, last week Box went 11-5 in picks, and old Twitch went 13-3, bringing this year's overall to Box being 20-12 and Twitch being 25-7. So, like early week, Sean, I wouldn't doubt if Twitch gets like over 75 wins or predicts most of us.
As long as I do as bad as Sluice last year, I'll be all right.
All right. Last year was just dumb picks because I was like, watch this. But anyway, moving on to week 3. Moving on to some Thursday night football action on Prime. We got AFC teams meeting up. We got the Fins going to the Bills to face off at 7:20.
I like the Bills in this one. It's in Miami, obviously, so it's going to be a little bit hotter.
It's actually
No, it's at
Buffalo.
yeah, it's
Oh,
in
well
Buffalo.
then, yeah, give me Buffalo, and I'll take whatever minus money line you want to give me. Dolphins have not been impressive. Sell Tua, or no longer tank for Tua, get rid of Tua, or get rid of McDaniels. Like, I don't know what you got to do, but I have been less than impressed with Miami. And Buffalo, obviously, Josh Allen breaks his nose last week, pops it back in, goes back in the game.
We really I missed that.
Yeah, he broke his nose, and you could see where he broke it in the post-game conference. And they just popped it back in, and he just rocked back out there.
He broke
He said,
my nose.
I'm Josh Allen. I have a hot girlfriend or hot wife.
Yeah,
I make so much money. Look at me.
It reminded me of, I'm sorry to be a Steeler reference, but 2010, the Ravens game when Lottie Nada broke Ben's nose first quarter. And, Yeah, I too have the Bills for obvious reasons. I think they're the best team in the AFC through the first 2 weeks. The thing that was scary about last week was I understand it's a divisional game. The Jets were kind of down. Fields went down late, but they took care of it. They took care of what they had to do. Was so that Allen, I don't have the stats in front of me. I think he had like 140 yards or something like that. Didn't throw the ball a lot. Didn't have to use Cook a whole lot. Cook had that really
Shout
nice
out James
touchdown.
Cook, 2 touchdowns, one of my fantasy matchups.
Yeah, but that was. I mean, they didn't have to go too deep in the playbook.
Yeah.
I expect that to be the same this week in Miami with their offense. Like they kind of picked it up the second half last week. And while we're at it, so I have Buffalo, but while we're at it, we're talking about things that made me twitch. Another honorable mention was former Chief Grade Tyreek Hill. They said they're sitting there down by I think less than a field goal, and it's 1st and 10. They're about midfield, and understandably he was frustrated about a ball flying over his head by Tua again, but then calls for like with 3 minutes to go in the game, calls to come off the field. Just shakes his head no and comes off the field. So if you haven't seen that, just kind of like that was one thing that kind of shook my head. Like I usually, like Tyreek wants to be in those moments. I said, but I don't know if that's just if we're already seeing that losing the locker room in Miami. But yeah, Bills by 50.
Bills
Okay,
by-
not really
yeah,
50.
Bills by
No,
50.
Bills
no,
by whatever you want to get me, bro.
not really 50.
Bills by insert number here, over 20. All right, so moving on to Sunday at our first noon slate, we got the Raiders going to the Commanders.
I have in this game, I feel like this could be a winnable game for either team with a backup quarterback and with the Commanders. And then, obviously, we had our Raiders expert here earlier. But I think that Commanders defense is really, still good. They still have their offensive line. They still have the pieces. It just depends if old man Mariota can get the ball passed around. But I feel like this game could really go either way, and it's kind of interesting. But there's also Jay Daniels hasn't been ruled out, and like I'm guessing they'll sit him for the Raiders. But I like the Commanders in this one. I could see the Raiders winning this one if it's Mariota back there. I think Mariota is a good enough serviceable backup quarterback that distribute the ball to Scary Terry and Zach Ertz and Debo and get the running game going. I still think the Commanders get the win. Plus, like their defense is still their defense. They're still top 10 defense in the league, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we're 2 for 2 so far this week, so I have the Commanders as well. I think, like you said, Mariota's been in the league long enough. Won't be anything flash. I expect it to be a close game, like 8 of the 16 were last week. It might be a 17-13 with 2 backups. I said, but I still just trust the balance in Dan Quinn and the coaching. And not that, Pete Carroll's a great coach as well, but like you said, with Ertz and Debo and Scary Terry, and the defense of the Commanders and the fact that it's in Washington, I like the Commanders to. Out of the 2 teams 1-1, I like them to come out victorious and go 2-1.
Yep. I like that one.
All right, up next, we got the Bengals at the Vikings.
Bengals and Vikings backup quarterback bowl.
Another one?
Yeah. Well, the other one, Geno Smith's still playing, but backup quarterback bowl this one. Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz, who saw on Vikings. For some reason, the Vikings Barstool account shows up on my X page all the time, and they said, remember everybody, Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate before he tore his ACL. But I have the Bengals getting it done in this one. The Bengals defense proved that they can get stops last week, and we saw, Carson Wentz, who knows where he might come out and have a great game. He might come out and throw 5 interceptions. But I like the Bengals getting this one done. I just have more faith in them. Jay Jettis will get his, but this is kind of backup bowl. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes for sure.
Yeah. This one I have a little bit differently. I could see where, like you said, where Trevor Lawrence is probably the better quarterback, obviously, than Carson Wentz. And so, like, for Cincinnati to make those plays against Trevor Lawrence last week, I wouldn't be shocked because Browning is certainly, like I said, in his limited years. You can edit that part out too.
Yeah.
Browning, in his limited experience, like has shown that he can be serviceable. But I like the Vikings at home. Their defense has played pretty good, even with Atlanta. Atlanta, I said, obviously put up 22 on them. I said, but it's in Minnesota. and Kevin O'Connell doing enough things with an experienced backup in Wentz. Like I said, this will be another one where with two backup quarterbacks, which that's not a knock on backup quarterbacks, but you'll see it. It'll be another, I think, 2017,
Yeah,
17,
who knows?
14. Not necessarily really pretty. And of course, the Bengals obviously, like, not only did their defense step up last week, but they obviously still have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and those guys on offense. So, like, I'm not going to be shocked if the Bengals win, but I like Minnesota to take care of business at home.
Hey, for my notes, you picked the Vikes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I missed it. You
And he picked
wrote,
the
you
Bengals.
wrote the Chargers up here, and it's a 3:05 game.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, it's whatever. Just get it right, so I don't got to worry about it after. All right. I think I did that. That would be all right. So, all right. Next up, we got the Steelers at the Pats.
Steelers at the Patriots here. A very interesting game here after, obviously, Steelers defense been struggling. Twitch talked about earlier. And, I want to take the Pats just to I believe in Mike Vrabel. Got the dub last week, got it done. But I like give me A-Rod, give me the Steelers in this one. I mean, I feel like Patriots have a ways to go before we can pick them in these hard-nosed games coming out there. And the Steelers, obviously their defense has been struggling, but the Patriots offense is nothing special.
That's interesting. I'm actually going with, if you asked me last week, I would have had a different pick, but I'm actually going against my own team, so that doesn't steal my fan card, but I'm going with the Patriots. I do believe in Mike Vrabel, and
Damn.
yeah. And
See that one come.
dude.
yeah, well, just the fact of, New England, even in the loss to the Raiders, like, did some good things offensively. Pittsburgh is not, like, I expect them to generate, like, I expect Tomlin to be on their ass this week, and the defense to play a little bit better, but not getting consistent pressure, not being able to stop a run game. I just think that, and I really don't know, besides Jalen Warren and DK Metcalf inconsistently in deep ball stuff, we don't have an offense, and I feel like that Mays doesn't have to be all-time great, but he can do enough, like Darnold, if you give him enough time.
Yeah.
And this, I hate to be just just go off of past years, because again, it changes from year to year. But I can tell you in 22, in 23, we had the far superior team on paper, and the Patriots still beat us. They've won, the series is all time, I looked at this today, is 19-16. Pittsburgh used to dominate it, but since Tom Brady, and since then, they are 14-4 against us, including 8 out of 9. And like the last 2 times they played us, we had the far superior team on paper. I think that was Bill Belichick's last year,
Yeah.
and they still beat us. And so, like, I just think that give me game, and I don't think a lot of people will pick Pittsburgh because, again, I'm biased. I think we have more talent, like more ready talent, like established, with Watt and Hayward and all those guys, the bigger names. But going with that, Pittsburgh traditionally loses to. It seems like they lose to teams they should win, and I think they'll be okay. Like they'll go. They're going to see us all year with Pittsburgh back and forth, but I think New England's gonna get it done. And if I'm wrong, then we win. Like surprise me, but until I see it.
I said, oh no, my team got to
The
win.
number of times I want to say against the Patriots, and I hate to admit that because I don't like the Patriots, but they have flat out owned us. And so until I see us do it, and after what I saw last week and how they match up with us, and it's in New England, I'm picking New England.
Bro, you need a hug. You're down right now, man. Oh, man, that surprised me. That's a crazy pick from
I
Twitch.
was not expecting the Twitch heel turn. That was crazy.
Okay.
All right, moving on. We got some AFC South action with the Colts traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans.
Give me the Colts. Colts are hot. Colts beat the Broncos. Colts are going to the Super Bowl.
Colts are the best team right now.
Yeah,
The
Colts are the
Broncos.
best team in the league. Not really. It's a big overreaction by a sad Broncos fan, but give me the Colts.
I don't know. I dropped Burrows in my fantasy league and just picked up Danny Dubs.
Yeah,
Baby.
Give me the Colts. Cam Ward's still doing. He had some good plays last week too. Cam Ward, I think, when he gets a good supporting cast, they will be dangerous. But right now, as of right now, who he has, not going to get the job done. So give me the Colts.
That's a good pick. I also have the Colts just because Titans still obviously in that rebuilding phase, and then Daniel Jones, which again, shout out. Like I had Aiden Hutchinson, but my dark horse comeback player of the year was with Daniel Jones, just because he won a playoff game, and there's other times where he just couldn't get it done at the end, or the Giants didn't have the defense, or they didn't have the running game. But it wasn't always because of Daniel Jones. So it's like, okay, what happens if you give him Jonathan Taylor, to give him some receivers, to give him a good defense, and again, it's maybe an overreaction. It's not like, and they said Denver's got a great defense. So I'm not talking smack on the Broncos or of the Dolphins, who have obviously looked like a dumpster fire through the first 2 weeks. But Daniel Jones has looked about as good as any quarterback so far in the first 2 weeks. And so, yeah, with that, again, in Indy again? How did they manage to do that? No, it's in Tennessee. I'm sorry. So Tennessee is playing at home for the second straight week. It don't matter. I'm still picking the Colts. But yeah.
We got some continued AFC South action with the Texans going to Jacksonville to take on the Jags.
I feel like this could be a really interesting game. Obviously, we see last week Jags give up a last-minute drive to the Bengals backup quarterback. But I think Trevor Lawrence and those guys are figuring it out. Brian Robinson is questionable to come back, though. He had some lower body injury towards the end of the game, and he's obviously their number one wide receiver, their speed guy. And then on the other side of that, I mean, I don't know what to say. Give me the Jags I like the Jags as an upset here. I mean, Texans last week lost a tough game to Baker, and late Monday night, something tells me to give me the Jags in this one just for shits and gigs.
Well, they had a good week 1 performance. They did what they're supposed to, but they had a fairly dominant win with Carolina, and then coming out like I said last week. But I like the Texans in this one because I think Texans will fight for a playoff spot. Like I said, they are fully aware of how the Colts are playing and who they play, and they'll be. I'm sure. I don't know. Week 3 they'll be scoreboard watching, but the focus will be on this game. They know they need this game. Yeah. It's a winnable game. Like the Jacksonville is that middle of the line in my mind, a middle of the line team. And like I said, what I've seen out of Houston, losing a close game, they didn't score on the Rams late, but that Rams defense since last year has been absolutely legit. And the defensive performance I saw, even against Baker, up until that last drive, I was impressed with. I like the way Ryan prepares his team. I am a believer in Stroud. Missed on a couple touch passes, but Jacksonville gave up what they did to Browning last week, whatever it was, 207. So I like Houston still overall. And so, I like the Jags to go in and get the divisional win against the Jags. I like Houston.
So, real quick, on the way over here to film this pod, Will informed me that I forgot to put in my notes, but Will informed me that every Bird team last week won the game. So the teams with bird mascots are fucking hard right now.
Would you say that bird is the word?
Bird is the word. Yeah, bird is the word. Yeah.
They won every.
That's the word of the week.
Shout out to my 9-year-old. He can't make it to the recording this evening. But on Finn going 3-0 on his picks last week.
Yes,
so
sir.
Beat us all.
Right.
Yeah, he did.
100%
win percentage.
Yeah, he's got a perfect record right now. But with the Bird team being said, we got the Falcons going to the Panthers.
Yeah, I take the Falcons in this one. It's kind of like another Tennessee. Panthers are rebuilding. I guess you could say. I don't really know what's going on in Carolina. I haven't seen many storylines out of Carolina.
Yeah.
I know their RB1 is my fantasy team, and he's really good. So, but besides that, give me the Falcons to get this one done. Falcons obviously win a lackluster game on Sunday Night Football, but they still got the win. Penix seems like he's figuring it out. Bijan Robinson's who we thought he was. He's still a dominant running back. I think this is a game that Penix can take a step and get the ball to his weapons, like knock on wood, like a Kyle Pitts, who's kind of been a bust, you could say, with how high they took him and who they thought he was going to be, and a Drake London, who's a good another first-round receiver guy that hasn't really came into his own yet. So I like the lack of offense on the Carolina Panthers and the potential of the Falcons. I like the Falcons in this one.
I like the Falcons in this one, too. To me, excuse me, we talked about feel-good stories so far through 2 weeks, and wins I was really impressed with. And you're looking at a Falcons team that they just haven't ran across Baker Mayfield, let's say, but the first week playing really well. They looked really good against Minnesota. I don't care if it was the backup quarterback, that came in later in the game. Their offense looks like they have, like I said, they have some nice pieces. And I think people forget that. They won how many games last year? They won 8.
They were on. They went 8-9. They were there.
They were that team. Wow, they won 8 games.
Yeah.
And so I do expect Penix to take another step. and Carolina's trying to figure it out. Divisional opponent. Bryce Young did play a lot better last week, and Arizona had a chance to win it late. Just came up short. But yeah, give me the Falcons on that one.
Next up, we got an East Coast and a West Coast bowl game here. We got the Rams going cross country to take on the Eagles.
I feel like this is a game last year that came down to the Eagles having a run game at the end of the day, and Kyron Williams only having 3 fumbles last year and 2 were against the Eagles, which is crazy to say, but I like, you said it's in Philly.
Yeah.
I like the Eagles in this one. I think the Eagles keep rolling. The Rams seem to be an improved team from last year. Like you said, their defense is what got them into the playoffs last year. And I see their defense improving, but even we saw this last week. The Eagles can get it done with Saquon only having 88 rushing yards and Jalen Hurts having 100 passing yards, or 101 passing yards in total. We've seen the Eagles can get it done with low-scoring offense. So I like them, and obviously if you get inside that, you get inside of 3 yards of the first down, you know what's coming, and nobody can stop it because there's no Aaron Donald in the league anymore.
Right.
And I don't even know if all respect Aaron Donald. I still don't know if Aaron Donald would be able to stop what they got going on in there with the tush push.
It's at Philly. I think one of the kind of under the radar teams has been the Rams too, because it hasn't necessarily been like, they kind of figured it out. Got Devontae Adams involved in the second half, and then Stafford still got enough in the tank. So that's a pretty nice 1-2 combo that's coming to fruition last week with him and Puka. That being said, their defense has been their strength, and they won a close game against the Texans, and then they let the Titans hang around until after halftime. Then they kind of stomped them out. But this game being in Philly and the balance of Philadelphia, so as good as the Rams defense is, and they get it close last year. I mean, this was a close playoff game last year.
Yeah.
But just like the playoff game last year, it's in Philly, and there's too many. I don't think they have enough offense in the Rams. Like if you'd asked, 4 years ago, what a great game that would have been. And this will still be a great game, but at the end of the day, it's in Philly, and I think Philadelphia still has, like the Chiefs in other years, like any Super Bowl returning Super Bowl champ, like you get that target on your back. But I still think we have yet to see the best of the Eagles, and they're figuring it out at 2-0.
Yeah.
So
it's always the best place to be figuring stuff out is undefeated.
Yeah. You got the Eagles.
Next up, we got a Land Sea Bowl here. We got the Jets taking on the Bucks.
I like the Bucks in this one. Obviously, we talked about Baker Mayfield clutch factor. Justin Fields being out, so Tyrod Taylor's going to come out and be their starter or projected starter for the Jets. I feel bad for Garrett Wilson. I don't know how many different quarterbacks he's out there on in his career, but it's probably an outrageous amount that people would be like, really? But I like the Bucks in this one. Their offense has been rolling. Their defense has been getting stops, and the Jets' defense is good. You can't say they're not. Like, can't take that away from them. But at the end of the day, I like the Bucks in this one just because they're explosive offense. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, they have that 1-2 combo at running back. And the Jets are without their starting quarterback.
Yeah. Well, like I said, one of the things that stood out yesterday besides Baker Mayfield was the defense. And so with Todd Bowles going against Tyrod Taylor backup, again, still another serviceable athletic experience backup in Tyrod Taylor. But I like the balance of Tampa Bay, and for the opportunity for really since the first time since like that 2020 and 2021 Bucks with Tom Brady, said they got a real opportunity here. This is Tampa Bay's home opener. They had 2 road come from behind victories. So, first home game of the year, the balance of Tampa Bay going against with Tyrod Taylor. I said I just think this is going to be a homecoming. Tampa Bay's has a real room to, like, I know the Jets aren't a great team, but they really have Tampa Bay's got an opportunity to really establish themselves, making an announcement like they're 3-0, and these are the games they should win, and I think Baker does. I think they roll on.
They roll on.
Like there'll be plenty of people catching touchdowns from the pirate shit on
which is good because Mike 7 is on my fantasy. But next up, we got Packers at Browns.
I think the Packers keep rolling in this one. Joe Flacco's going to go out there and have himself a respectable game, like he does. But like the Packers in this one, Packers' offense has been rolling, arguably the best team in the NFC. Besides the Eagles, they're up there. But I like the Packers in this one. Jordan Love, the offense, their tight end Kraft last week had over 100 yards. I think he had like 186 yards. He had a crazy week. It was a Thursday night game, so I don't remember the stats exactly. But once they can get their receivers involved, and there was two balls I remember in my specifically that they missed Golden by inches, which is their their wide receiver they took in the first round out of Texas, who's a speedster. So if they start connecting on those, I think they could really run away with this one. But obviously Myles Garrett's there, and like we talked about, Myles Garrett is still got to double team him, if not triple team the guy in the middle. But I like the Packers to roll down to the dog pound and get a win.
Yeah, that one we agree on too. It's just like the Packers, a top 5 team. The way the defense is playing, Joe Flacco is still obviously playing at a high level, even in a blowout loss last week to Baltimore. But I just think Cleveland will, because this is what they'll do, is like in a game they should be blown out. In Cleveland, the dog pound, that atmosphere, like they'll keep it closer than what they thought. Like, how is Cleveland playing with Green Bay after we saw Cleveland the first 2 weeks, and you see what they'll keep it close. And then in the second half, I expect Green Bay to just pull away, just again because of that balance. I'm really interested to see the chemistry, possible connection growing between him and the tight end. Because if he has that open up, and then the golden wide receiver, and then with Jones in the run game and Micah Parsons getting more acclimated, like this Green Bay team has been as impressive as anybody in the NFL through the first 2 weeks in my eyes. Just the eye test and I think that's going to be too much. I don't think Cleveland has offensive pieces, and like their pass defense obviously kind of broke apart last week. I expect them to play better on defense, but give me the Pack.
Yeah.
Take care of business.
So in our first 305 time slot, we got the Broncos at the Chargers.
This game, another scary game for the Broncos here. Our defense, obviously, last week going against a really hot Chargers team. But unlike Twitch, I'm going to ride steady with my boys. Damn. Give me the Broncos. I think the defense can figure it out. I think the defense will figure it out. Justin Herbert's obviously dual threat ability has been on show so far this year. And obviously we can't have the secondary making all of our tackles. But I think the Broncos offense will keep us in this game, which I wouldn't have said week 1. And hopefully our defense comes to play over there in SoFi. West Coast, it's a divisional game, so it should mean more to the boys. So give me the Broncos in this one. I'm not turning heel like Twitch over there.
All right.
I thought about it for a second,
Well,
that's for sure.
Well, this will be the third game this week that we have going different. I do expect Denver's defense to play a lot better. And they said Bo Nix took a nice step last week. But I'm a believer in the Chargers, like being the real deal. Like, and really, after 2 weeks, again, not to overreact, but really competing with Kansas City down to the final weeks. On top of it's at home. I mean, SoFi is like they have half as many fans on the other team.
Yeah.
So I understand it's not necessarily, not to talk smack, but as much of a home field advantage. But just the issue, obviously, that they had last week predominantly, I know Taylor had a couple nice runs, but was pass defense, even with Patrick Surtain. And so I expect him to play better, but like Justin Herbert's playing at an insanely high level. He's on that short list of 5 or 6 possible MVP candidates. On top of Keenan Allen looking refreshed, the 1-2, like the defense playing great, the 1-2 combo they have, 2 good wide receivers. I like the Chargers to win at home, and just the fact the way the schedule makers had it, their first 3 games against the Chiefs, the Raiders, and now the Broncos. I think Jim Harbaugh, after last year, starting off 2-0 and losing a game where Herbert went out against, actually, ironically, the Pittsburgh, but they had a chance to go 3-0 last year. I think having that early season, like 3 weeks in, really pushing the fact they'd have the tiebreaker for all 3 AFC West teams, like to start off the season. Yeah. And I think their offense is going to be too much for. And this is another game I do expect to be close. I could go either way with this one, so I'm sorry to go against you on this one, but like I'm gonna go with the Chargers on this one and Justin Herbert.
Next in our 305 time slot, we got the Saints going all the way northwest to face the Seahawks.
Seahawks. I don't really have much to say.
You didn't have to think about it.
Yeah, Saints offense is kind of figuring it out, but Seahawks.
Yeah. I also have the Seahawks because, like I said, I had the Seahawks making the playoffs. And last week was a testament to them. That was a good win. Pittsburgh's not necessarily an easy place to play, and they shut down Aaron Rodgers for about 90% of the game. They've got pressure and several sacks in both the first 2 weeks. Sam Darnold, I know it's going to show 2 picks, but one of them was a tip pass. Really good balance. They got That was the thing. And so what's frustrating on Pittsburgh's defense, I said, but Donald was very efficient. If you give him, like anybody, a running game and a short passing game, you give him that balance. And I think he was 22 of 28 for like 300 yards. Walker had over 110 yards rushing and a touchdown. And then Cooper Kupp and who's the new guy? I can't think of it. It's got a weird name.
Jackson Smith, Najigba.
Yes, from Seattle. Both having over 100 some. Over 100 some yards. It said so. Like, I like Seattle at home, the 12th man, and I like Seattle. I like what they did last week. They responded good with the game on the line in a close game, and they pulled away.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm sorry, dude.
The pizza.
It was.
It's gonna stink out the pizzazz, dude. All right.
Yeah,
So
the first one didn't stink, but that one does. Please edit that out.
no, hell no. We're amplifying that one, right? Next up, we got some NFC West action. At the Cards going to Levi Stadium. That's what it's called. To face the the Niners.
I like the Niners in this one. I think Mac Jones comes out and has another solid game again. They got CMC involved like he used to be, like prime Panthers. He got passing touchdown last week. And they're really getting George Kittle. Like, without George Kittle, I was like, oh no, they might lose a step. But it really seems they're kind of working around that. And I like the 49ers defense against Kyler Murray. Remind me to tell you a stat off camera later about the Niners defense. So, anyways, I like the Niners in this one against the Cards, getting a division win there.
I have the Niners as well. I said I have the Niners winning the division, and I said this will be another game I think will be closer than people think because Arizona will typically play San Francisco close. However, obviously San Francisco still dominated the series. On top of it's in San Francisco, and Mac Jones may not be Brock Purdy at his best, but like he can do enough. It's having Kittle out still, like, it affects the offense a little bit. But I think the defense, it'll be Shanahan, like basically the formula doesn't change with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Don't turn the ball over, and I think you'll see a steady dose of Christian McCaffrey. So at home, give me the Niners.
Next up, we got the Cowboys going all the way up to Chicago to take on the Bears.
The Bears.
I feel like this is another game that could go either way. Obviously, the Bears have been in 2 close games there, but the Cowboys got hot last week, and I don't like picking the Cowboys, but I'm gonna pick the Cowboys going up to Chicago and getting it done. Obviously, Soldier Field has a good home field advantage, but the Cowboys, obviously, like Twitch said earlier, Pickens getting involved is dangerous. Javonte Williams gets another touchdown last week. They always still have CD, so I have faith. I have faith in the boys getting it done up there with a team that got blown out last week. Obviously, Detroit's good, but I like the Cowboys going up and getting the job done up there.
Yeah,
North.
Yeah, I have the Cowboys winning as well. Talk about 2 teams where the Cowboys giving up over 430 some yards passing, and the Bears giving up 5 touchdowns. So I think you'll see a lot of this. Could be, we were talking about earlier, this could be like this week's New York Dallas game.
Yeah,
Dallas is involved. High scoring affairs, but like I like the balance. Like I haven't seen enough consistency of Caleb Williams, and I not necessarily think that Dak Prescott's necessarily going to light it up, but like I said, we've seen what Dallas's defense has been through the first 2 weeks. That being said, I can't even say that because they played pretty well against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But I think just Dallas is the better team, and I think that I'll just keep it simple. I don't try to make it more difficult. I think CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and like they make enough big plays. That's going to be the story. Spreading the ball around, and like in Chicago's pass defense, and like especially with the injury.
Yeah.
I expect Dallas to beat a team like Chicago.
Next up, we got the Chiefs rolling up to MetLife Stadium to take on Russell Wilson's Giants.
I think this is a get-right game for the Chiefs. Like we talked about, kind of got a gauntlet coming up of teams they're playing. But give me the Chiefs in this one. I think this is a get-right game for them. That D-line is still really good and up there. And they have Abdul Carter. They have Thero Ducks. And they still have Sexy Dexy in the middle. Like, they still have dudes. Malik Neighbors was hot last week with Russ. But I think this is the get-right game for the Chiefs before the test comes next week with Baltimore. And they have the Jags, and then they play the Bills later in the season. Like, they still have teams they have to, play that's going to be a rough.
In the next month.
Yeah, in the next month is a hard look. So I think this is a Chiefs get-right game. Hey, man, we got to get rolling here, or else this could turn into a really, really bad situation we got going on.
Sure. Easy one for me to pick. It's I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Same thing like you said. I think it's a get-right game. Chiefs have lost 2 really close games against what I consider 2 really solid teams.
Yeah.
And I know it was fun to watch last week in the offense, but the Giants just aren't a great team. And so other than a few years ago when your Broncos upset the Chiefs with Russell Wilson, overall, they've had Russell Wilson's number. They're 0-2. I said they understand the urgency, and I expect Andy Reid to have them not be focused on the week ahead.
Yeah.
Not focusing on 1 week at a time. I expect –
Yeah, especially at 0-2.
Yeah. It would be, for a lot of other coaches or teams, it might be, it might feel overwhelming or freak out. Be like, oh man, we're the Sunday night game. If we start off 0-3, or be like, we should win this game and already be looking at Baltimore because of that, the meaning of that game. But I think Andy Reid keeps them focused and they get it done, and I think the Chiefs win.
I forgot to mention that is the Sunday night football game. Also, a little side note. I did not think Box was going to pick the Chiefs, so I had it pre-written down.
The Giants.
Yeah. So I had to cross that out right quick.
I believe in Mahomes, man. In this get-right game.
Sure.
This is like what was supposed to be K-State playing Army game.
Yeah.
Type of game.
Right.
All right, but moving on to Monday Night Football, we got the Motor City Kitties going down to Baltimore to take on the Ravens.
I feel like this is going to be a really good Monday Night Football game. Obviously, we saw this last week 52 points by the Lions. And then we saw Baltimore's had obviously really tough loss in Buffalo. They get right last week. They blow out the Browns. Shout out the Browns for scoring 17 points in back-to-back games, though. It's impressive for them. But anyways,
Consistency.
I like the Ravens in this one since it is in Baltimore. Baltimore's a hard place to play, it seems like, at night games. I think Derrick Henry Lamar is going to be too much for that defense to take care of. Zay Flowers is coming into his own. I have faith in I really like the Ravens in this one. I think Jared Goff will keep it close, though, because, Jared Goff, like we talked about, consistent quarterback, he'll do what he needs you to do. But I think that on the Lions team that's only had one good week against the pedigree that Harbaugh's built up there in Baltimore with that good defense and good offense, I just like Baltimore in this one.
Well, we're going to finish this week with only 3 different picks as opposed to 4 or 5. But Baltimore, same thing. That's what I said with Green Bay and Buffalo. Baltimore should be 2-0. They did exactly. That was another one. I mean, they did what they were supposed to do last week with Cleveland, but they stomped them like we said they would. And I expect this to be a really close game, like Detroit. A couple years ago, beating Kansas City to start off the year, they're not afraid to go on the road. They played San Francisco and Philadelphia and some of these teams tough. I expect them to play tough, but there's just. And I forget what the statistic is, but what Lamar's numbers and record is against NFC teams that don't see him all the time.
Yeah.
It's something astronomical, and it's in Baltimore, prime time. I like the Ravens to get it done. Unfortunately, I mean I don't like it, but
Get it done.
yeah, I got the Ravens.
But that concludes our picks today. We appreciate everybody listening throughout this podcast. A little bit of a longer one, but hope everybody enjoys it. Appreciate LSV for letting us come out here.
Always.
Appreciate Sloosh, our ones and twos guy, our guy over here on taking care of timestamps and picks and taking care of all the technology stuff on the side. Appreciate Twitch for coming out tonight and having some good takes, some good Steelers takes. Appreciate Shanon for popping out and giving us some good Raiders intake that we probably wouldn't have thought about because they're the Raiders. Don't really try to think about them too much. But appreciate everybody for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe both on X and YouTube. And drop a comment down below what your favorite take was or what your craziest take was. And don't forget that our first 100 subscribers will be entered in a raffle to some kind of prize. We haven't decided on the prize yet, but when we get 100 subscribers, we'll do a raffle. And First 100 will get some kind of prize. Send you a T-shirt, a sticker. Figure
Date with
something out.
Sloosh.
Yeah, you go on a date with Sloosh. I mean, whatever it takes. But we appreciate everybody listening. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope all your bets hit. Don't forget to drink. Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive. But appreciate everybody listening this week, and have a great week.